Hello and welcome to the Daily Devotion here at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm Pastor Goodroad. Our reading today comes from the book of Genesis, chapter 22. This is the Old Testament reading for the fifth Sunday in Lent. After these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, "Abraham." And he said, "Here am I." He said, "Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you." So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and his son Isaac. And he cut the wood for the burnt offering, and arose, and went to the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place from afar. Then Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there and worship, and come again to you." And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and laid it on Isaac his son. And he went, and he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So they went, both of them together. And Isaac said to his father Abraham, "My father." And he said, "Here am I, my son." He said, "Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering?" Abraham said, "God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son." So they went, both of them together. When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built the altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar, on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, "Abraham, Abraham." And he said, "Here am I." He said, "Do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram, caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the name of that place, "The Lord will provide." As it is said to this day, "On the mount of the Lord it shall be provided." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. You know, this text will give a lot of people pause. They'll say, God would require Abraham to kill his son? Well, that's a little concerning, isn't it? Doesn't really quite make sense, does it? Is that really a loving God, one who would tell someone to kill his own son? Well, therein is revealed the great reversal. God is trying to tell Abraham what he requires. God requires everything of his people. He is saying that he desires all of them to be completely and totally his, them and everything that they love and everything that surrounds them. He would require it all. And yet, the great reversal is that God does not require it all. The great reversal is that instead of making Abraham give his son or everything else, and instead of God requiring us, our death of us, instead God sends his son, Jesus Christ. And instead of us giving something to him, he gives something to us. He gives everything. The Son of Man gives everything, his entire life, even up to his death, to purchase us from death. That is the great reversal. That God could rightly require our deaths, but instead he provides a lamb for himself. And that is the person of Jesus Christ. He comes to atone for all of our sin. As we head into Holy Week, next week, this is what I want you to dwell on. The fact that God could have required our deaths, could have required us to pay for our own sin. Instead, he gave his son, Jesus Christ, to pay for it for us. And that is the greatest blessing that God could ever give to us. Forgiveness of sins, life, and salvation, all through the death of his son. In the name of Jesus, amen.